The motive in this case was to steal guns, and they simply got the wrong house.
A woman from Pennsylvania is shot and her adult son executed after the DA says they were the victim of a home invasion. Now the accused murderers are behind bars. I'll tell you how police caught them and why this case is such a tragedy. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. This case is absolutely unbelievable because it truly should not have happened. I can say that anytime someone is shot, but this case is particularly awful. I'll start at the very beginning. Bernadette Gaudio was in her own home outside of Philadelphia on December 8th, minding her own business. Her 25-year-old son, Andrew Gaudio, was also there. DA Kevin Steele said that 2 days prior to that, a company called Junk Luggers had done an estimate on a house with a similar address to the Gaudio's home in Bucks County. The Gaudios live in Montgomery County. That's a big difference. Big difference. They do not live in Bucks County. Junk Luggers is just what it sounds like. It's a junk removal company. The house in Bucks County that Junk Luggers employees visited had a lot of guns. This is a photo of the area of the actual house with the guns stored in Bucks County, not the Gaudio's home. Kevin Steele said that Kelvin Roberts and Charles Fulforth had that information about the guns because they worked for Junk Luggers. Fulforth was Roberts' boss and described himself as a gun guy. Police wrote in an affidavit, during this investigation, Bernadette Gaudio was interviewed. Gaudio was asleep when she was awakened by a black male intruder wearing a black hoodie. This male shot her without provocation while she was lying in her bed, and she became instantly paralyzed. Gaudio heard her son being shot at and believed he was struck because he yelled, "What the F? What the F?" Her son entered her bedroom to check on her when he was shot and killed. Gaudio did not hear or see her son struggle with any attacker, nor did she recall him having anything in his hands. Gaudio stated she was shot again after her son was shot and killed in her bedroom. What Bernadette Gaudio described is absolutely horrifying. She used Siri on her phone to call 911. Police said she heard a second person downstairs and believed one of them took a PlayStation or Xbox along with a jewelry box. Police would later identify Kelvin Roberts as a suspect in the home invasion from this image taken from a police officer's dash camera, as they said Roberts left the Gaudio's neighborhood as police were arriving. And police say this image of Bernadette Gaudio's Grand Cherokee was captured as it was driven away from her home. It turns out the DA and police say that Kelvin Roberts and Charles Fulforth, the men who worked at Junk Luggers, broke into the Gaudio's home looking for guns that weren't there.
They went into the wrong house with bad intentions and shot an innocent 61-year-old woman as she lay in her bed, and they executed her 25-year-old son. And I say executed because Andrew was shot in the back of the head as he lay down on the floor of his mother's bedroom.
Police say they have a mountain of evidence against Kelvin Roberts and Charles Fulforth, including text messages and their own words. On December 7th, the day before the break-in, Fulforth sent Roberts a text that said, "I got some info on this house yesterday. It was an estimate, 2 old people with a whole lot of guns down City Line Avenue." Then on December 8th and 9th, after the burglary and murder, Roberts texted Fulforth, "I'm trying to slide to Jamaica ASAP. Whatever you send me, I'm gone. I need as much money as I can get." Police wrote that Fulforth admitted to being in the Gaudio's home and that the ghost gun found in his apartment was the gun used to kill Andrew Gaudio, and he told police it wasn't supposed to end this way. I'll get to more of the evidence here shortly. The Gaudio's friends and family have set up a GoFundMe account for them. It has raised more than $250,000, which was the stated goal. Bernadette Gaudio's son, Robert, wrote, "Hi, everyone. I cannot find the words to explain how critical your support has been so far. If a text or call has gone unanswered, I promise it has not gone unnoticed. Mom is the strength of the family, and she's pushing to fight every minute. While I continue to make a poor attempt at being the brains, I need to take a moment to recognize Andrew, our heart. Everyone who had the pleasure of spending more than a few seconds with him will carry a little of him for the rest of their lives. Remember him well. Mom and I have such a long road ahead. I have no idea where it will take us or how long it will take. Thank you for being there with and for us. The cases I cover each day here on Crime Fix show you just how scary the world can be. And one of the scariest things that can happen is if you ever get hurt. But I want you to know if you're ever seriously hurt or in an accident, your case could be worth millions. And that's where our sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, comes in. The firm has more than 1,000 lawyers who will fight for what you deserve, and they have the track record to prove it. In the past few months, Morgan & Morgan has won some big verdicts like $12 million in Florida, $26 million in Philly, and $6.8 million in New York. All were much higher than the highest insurance company offer. Seeing if you have a case can be done in 8 clicks or less, and you don't even have to leave your couch to start one. Also, a really great thing, you only pay Morgan & Morgan if you win. There are no upfront fees. So if you're ever hurt, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/crimefix. I want to bring in Enrique Latoyson. He is a defense attorney based in the Philadelphia area. Enrique, your first thoughts on this case? I mean, it seems to me that the evidence that police and the DA have collected is overwhelming.
Well, actually, my first thoughts on the case was this is a pretty horrific situation. You know, as a defense attorney and handled over thousands of cases over the years, over going back 20 years, you know, sometimes you see a case and it kind of just shocks you to your core, even though I've been exposed to many different situations, many different cases. I've read many different affidavits over the years. But when you look at this kind of case, you know, it's the type of case that, you know, it's just everyone's kind of worst nightmare to be in a situation where, you know, someone is simply, you know, sleeping in their bed and here come some individuals, and from, you know, the evidence that they seem to accumulate so far, because, you know, there is a surviving witness in this case, only due to the medical team at Lincoln Hall Hospital. You know, you're looking at a situation where, you know, someone is just being attacked while being in their bed. You know, there is an overwhelming amount of evidence in this case due to, I think, the crime being so horrific. You know, you could tell the police force is joined together to work together to quickly gather as much evidence as they could in this particular case.
And I do want to kind of touch on some of this evidence that, you know, that they've got. I mean, they have cell phones, 3 cell phones that were taken from the home. Those were found in Charles Fulforth's home, or at least similar ones. They have cell phone technology, you know, evidence that they've gathered from the perps' cell phones that they say puts them in the area. I mean, we have photographic evidence. We have dash cam video of one of the people leaving the scene. And then the you know, with the one suspect, we have the girlfriend who owned the car, her son basically saying, "Oh my gosh, that's Kel." I mean, there are all of these moving parts, and it's I don't know how you defend this case.
Well, I think in a case like this, I mean, you know, first thing I'm going to say about the cell phone evidence is us as American citizens, you, me, everyone that's listening to this right now, we agree to carry trackers around. Essentially, we carry trackers around with us all day long, and those are our cell phones. And as soon as the police go to investigate a crime, the biggest tool they have is they reach out to the cell phone company with the subpoena, and the cell phone company tells, you know, law enforcement exactly where you were, where your phone was all day long, where it went, how far it went. And what they've done in this case, and what they do in a lot of cases, they will watch a phone travel with another phone that might be a suspect. In some situations, it's a victim. Sometimes someone's been kidnapped and that person has a cell phone. And what they do is they track the phones together. They can see it go from one area to another area to another area. So, you know, when you look at cell phones, I mean, yes, they are, you know, it's great for technologies for us to be able to reach out and to use the phones like we do in our society, but they also are tracking devices that are used and a great tool for law enforcement. And in this particular case, when you look at trying to defend it, I mean, you're looking at, obviously in this case, in Pennsylvania, a first-degree murder case. First-degree murder case in Pennsylvania is life without parole. Unlike other states where life might be 25 years or life may mean a certain amount of years, Pennsylvania, life means life. You don't leave unless you're in a box. And second-degree murder in Pennsylvania means a murder that takes place during the commission of a felony. And in particular case, the felony would be burglary, robbery, aggravated assault, murder, all those things. So murder too in Pennsylvania is also life in prison without parole. So in this particular case, you basically have two suspects that they have enough evidence to get either a first degree or a second degree, which is life without parole in Pennsylvania.
One of the things that's so stunning to me about this, and it kind of freaks me out about these junk removal companies, both of the suspects, Fulforth and Calvin Roberts, they worked for junk luggers. And so, they essentially got information about this other house. It was the so-called wrong house, even though there's no right house, right? They, no matter what, they were going to break in and steal goods. They were going to steal guns. And so they break into this house. And for whatever reason, according to the affidavit, Charles Fulforth says things go sideways. It wasn't supposed to end this way. And he doesn't admit it, but he admits to being in the house with a gun. And the mom, thank God, survives, even though her son was murdered. But Calvin Roberts said, Fulforth told me he shot the mom. He shot her. And so he admits to having a ghost gun in there, which is a whole separate issue. He apparently had a 3D printer in his apartment, printed this gun up. Potentially, they match it to the rounds that killed Andrew Gaudio. This case can't get more horrific. But it's all about they went to the so-called wrong house. I just don't. Wow, your thoughts on all of that?
Well, first thing I'm going to tell you is that, Junk Luggers is a company that, hiring felons in situations to give people opportunity to get employment to be able to work. So the major issue I have is that, this type of thing, has a chilling effect on all the, felons or all the people that are trying to get a second chance in life or trying to be employed, who may not be employed for other than a job, like as a mover or someone handling junk. Opportunities for folks that have been convicted of crimes in the past are very limited for the type of employment that they can get. So here you have a company that is basically, going to have a chilling effect of, other people may not want to hire these type of companies where, you may keep people from being able to get jobs in the future because here's a company that's supposed to be, the owner is a former felon, the other co-defendant's a former felon, and here they are supposed to be doing legal work, and instead they're, plotting and looking for potential hit jobs. And, the other interesting thing, if you live in this area, the difference between Bucks County and Montgomery County is huge. And you got to wonder, what kind of, bubbling idiots would get this thing mixed up. And you brought up another important point, which is this. There's a third person who's probably liable for a crime in all this and may be getting arrested in this. This third person who reported this information to the owner to tell him about this place with the guns. Also, there was a person who gave money to the one defendant based on the stuff that was being sold. So I would probably think that they're not done arresting other parties in this case, because it looks as though maybe somebody that was supposed to be doing an innocent estimate might have been involved with scoping for potential hit jobs. And yes, there's never a right house or a wrong house, but you have a 25-year-old gets executed who's calling for his mom, who says, and we only know this because she survived, is that she was shot without provocation. She wasn't fighting anybody. She wasn't doing anything. She was simply 61 years old, laying in bed, and all of a sudden she just shot in bed, and her son comes, like any good son or family member would do, to come to assist, and he's executed, including shot in the back of the head. So when you look at the whole case, it's horrifying, it's chilling, it could stop, it could hurt other people who work in that industry who can't find other jobs or employment because of what these guys did.
Yeah, Andrew Gaudio, my God. That poor kid. He's 25, or he was 25, but his mother, I mean, him being shot as his mother is shot, he's shot and killed. Kevin Steele says he was executed. And you're right. I want to go back to what you said about how there could be more arrests coming. Kevin Steele believes, there could be more there. And he wants to know if, there's more going on with junk luggers and if there have been other crimes committed. And, they did quote like a confidential source of sorts who had been providing some information. It kind of makes you wonder, did somebody at the company kind of tip the cops off too? Maybe they were like, oh my gosh, I told them about this. It's just a tragic case. Bernadette Gaudio is recovering in the hospital. Her family members and other people commenting on the GoFundMe said that she's been able to keep her sense of humor about her, which is stunning given the circumstances, and we hope she'll recover. But where do you see this case going? Do you see the DA taking this to trial, or do you see these defendants, depending on how pre-trial motions work out and things like that, throwing themselves on the sword and just trying to get the best deal they can?
I see them throwing themselves on the sword. I mean, they both confessed, which is interesting. They both confess and they both implicate each other. So, what's interesting about this case is, while they go and commit such a horrific crime, they're also so willing, once they come in contact with law enforcement, to confess and to point the finger at each other and to kind of try to downgrade themselves a little bit about their involvement, but at the same time, admitting to still participating in a felony. So no matter how you look at it, a felony, a murder too in Pennsylvania still deals with committing a felony, and during the commission of that felony, a murder takes place. So, I can't imagine the district attorney's office coming down from a first or second degree. I can't imagine them coming down from life in prison because it's guaranteed mandatory. It's mandatory in Pennsylvania. So the district attorney has no other option. A murder one, a murder two conviction is mandatory life. The only thing they could offer is maybe a murder three. A murder three could be, 20 years in prison. However, that's normally in a situation where the district attorney is going to need maybe the testimony of one or the other to get two convictions. But in this particular case, they both confess. And they confess and they talk about each other. So there are rules of evidence that don't allow certain admissions from the co-defendants to be used against each other. But if you scrap that and you just use their own words against themselves, if you redact their confessions only to use the part where they talk about themselves, it's enough to get convictions. So I can't imagine that the district attorney's office would be motivated in any way, shape, or form to do any kind of plea bargain in this case, because it is what it is. And for a crime that's so horrific, I don't think as a policy that they would look to plea bargaining or downgrading in this case.
Yeah, most certainly not. Enrique Latoyson, we'll keep an eye on it. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Anytime.
And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.